Today's NDE afterlife experience is from Ava. Ava describes her near-death experience and what is like experiencing a glimpse of the afterlife. She is shown moments of her future and is ultimately sent back from heaven to complete her work here on earth. Welcome to Near-Death Tales. If this is your first time checking this channel out, I'm glad to have you here. My name is Joseph, and I will be narrating the near-death experiences of those who have died and have seen the other side. Today's experience comes from Ava. Here it is. Hi, my name is Ava, and this is my story. I've had 3 near-death experiences, and I couldn't explain these unusual events, so I shoved them aside, but third NDE changed everything. In my upper 40s, after marrying and relocating to the countryside with my husband at the ranch, I developed an allergy that caused significant congestion. I had never faced this issue before and assumed it would resolve with the changing seasons, but it didn't. At night, I took a decongestant to relieve the congestion so I could sleep better. One night, though, it was worse than usual, and during the night, my chest hurt because my breathing was restricted. I didn't have the energy to sit up, so I reached for my husband and called out for him to help, but he did not respond. In the next moment, I found myself outside of my body, feeling as though I had taken the biggest, freshest breath of air I had ever experienced. It felt like I had been set free from captivity, and now I was immersed in an atmosphere of the purest peace, love, and tranquility that cannot be imagined. I could also sense that I was instantly connected with the universal consciousness and realized that everything was as it should be, and it was glorious. In that moment, I could see my husband and me lying in bed below, and I understood that I was dead. That is when I noticed my hands were still resting over my tummy, just as they usually were while sleeping. This meant that it was my spirit arms that had reached for Gavin, and it was my spirit voice that called for him, which is why he did not respond. I zoomed down to observe my body from different angles, and then I returned to a point above where the ceiling used to be. That's when I noticed that the roof had melted away and was no longer there. As I floated there in love, I could feel my energetic arms elongating and extending out to my sides. I saw a silver cord float by in front of me and above me, moving from left to right in an atmosphere that had no gravity. When I saw the silver cord flow by, I noticed a ball of light approaching in a slight S-shaped curve off to my right. As the light approached, I was more interested in what was happening down in my physical body because I noticed something lifting out of my legs. What I saw was a shimmering blue energy, the color of the sky on a beautiful day, floating up and out of my body, then from my shins, and finally out of my thighs. When that energy completely escaped my body, it drew towards me. It was drawn to me because I was the energetic consciousness that had already left the upper part of my body, and I had been observing the remainder of my blue spirit body exit the lower half of my body. In spirit, I had stretched to escape my physical form, but because I was connected to the universal consciousness, I understood that this was my own slice of the Creator Spirit. This realization tells me that our energetic consciousness is our personal piece of God's Spirit, and through our spirit, the Creator is always with us. When the blue energy floated up to me, I became whole again, suddenly morphing into the shape of an orb that glowed. I was now surrounded by a wave of unconditional love. This wave was the Creator's symbolic gesture, showing me that this near-death experience was connected to a prayer I had prayed 2 years earlier, asking for the breath of God to breathe upon me, and He touched me. This tells me that our prayers are answered, but not if they interfere with someone else's lesson plan, and only at the correct timing. While the metamorphosis took place, I could sense my shape morphing because my spirit arms seemed to fold in toward my body, and my spirit legs pulled up as I transformed into the shape of a glowing orb. Just like the radiant white light that was zooming toward my room, my vision went through a fishbowl effect for an instant until the transformation was complete. Then, my sight became better than perfect, and I was amazed. I no longer needed glasses, and I was healed from everything that had ailed me. God healed my soul during that evening as well. Suddenly, that tiny glowing light that had been approaching from the right zipped into my room and stopped in front of me, promptly growing and changing into the most incredible heavenly light beam that was infused. The light had rays emanating from its heart center, and it was beautiful. Initially, I could see the light beams, the shape of its face, and its clothing, but I couldn't see its face clearly because the rays of light were obscuring my view. Therefore, its identity was initially hidden. However, later I found out that it was Jesus. Jesus already knew who I was, and he loved me regardless of my successes and failures. He loved me simply for existing and loved me unconditionally, just as he does for all of us. In the meantime, I noticed a second ball of light coming through the darkness from the left, but I turned my focus back to Jesus because he held his right hand up to me, palm up, in a gesture that invited me to take his hand. Then he said, "It's time to come home, Ava." When he told me it was my time to go, I thought about my daughter Gina and wondered how she would take my passing. However, my thought was answered without me having to ask. Jesus told me, "She'll be okay." Suddenly, the second light grew bigger and was now beside Jesus. I could see clouds bubbling around the edges of the glowing light was brilliant, and the energy was actually alive. This magnificent force was God in all of his essence, and he loved me unconditionally. That's when God reached out with his energetic rainbow arms and embraced me. He pulled me close, and while he held me, he showed me many moments from my life, telling me that these moments matter and that I should understand them. Some of the moments I recognized, but others I didn't because they had not yet happened. Still wanting to go to heaven and not back to my body, the angels came for me to convince me to stay. They took me high into the sky, where I became one with the universe and could be in all places at all times. However, nothing I was shown or experienced changed my desire to go to heaven. Suddenly, I found myself back in front of God's light, just on the precipice of entering, when I was shown one more thing that was important to me. It was an image of my middle son, Kurt, and somehow, by looking at his face, I knew something was going to happen in the future. I realized that if I wasn't there to support him, he would go down a pathway that would not be good for him, and I wondered how I could know this unless it was planned. I must have had some kind of agreement with Kurt to be there for him. That's when I made the decision to stay, telling Jesus, "I'm not ready to go yet." Jesus was pleased with my decision. At that moment, I turned back into my blue spirit body and sat down in Jan's body, slipping into her form, merging my spirit feet with her physical feet, but not completely. I placed my spirit hands on my spirit knees and rocked back and forth in Jan's body until its consciousness could gain enough momentum to lay down, snap back in, and help Jan sit up and gasp for air. All the while, as I re-entered my body, I heard a voice from heaven echoing over and over again until I was completely inside. The echoing message was not only for me, but for everyone, and that voice kept repeating, "Love is the only thing that matters." While my task of understanding the many moments from my life was enlightening, it tied together to create my spirit knees and rocked back and forth in John's body until its consciousness could gain enough momentum to lay down, snap back in, and help Jan sit up and gasp for air. All the while, as I re-entered my body, I heard a voice from heaven echoing over and over again until I was completely inside. The echoing message was not only for me, but for everyone, and that voice kept repeating, "Love is the only thing that matters." While my task of understanding the many moments from my life was enlightening, it tied together to create a much bigger, beautiful picture of what life is about and how heaven assists all of us daily. However, not everything is planned. God showed me moments from my life, illustrating that not every second or choice we make can take us down a different pathway. There are certain moments that will happen no matter what direction we take. We all have our unique purposes in life, but the primary reason we are in this world is to spiritually grow and learn to love, sharing love by encouraging others to do the same. In my view, I feel we should wake up each day and go to sleep each night with a sense of wonder on where we're guided, what will we be shown, and who will be placed in our pathway for us to help or learn from, because life is the most magnificent adventure we will ever have. And we must always remember God's message that love is the only thing that matters, and that's how we should live our lives.